A to Z Mysteries, Super Edition 1, Detective Camp, by Ron Roy. Chapter 4. Do you think someone really stole Mademoiselle Musie's ring? Ruth Rose whispered to Dink and Josh. They were hiking toward the lake. I do, Josh said, and I have a good idea who. Josh thinks Buzzy Steele did it, right, Josh? Dink said. Buzzy, why? Asked Ruth Rose. He was sneaking around in our cabin, Josh said. Dink shook his head. He wasn't sneaking, Josh. He lives there, remember? He said. Is anyone in your cabin missing anything? Asked Ruth Rose. Not yet, Josh said, but I'm keeping my eye on him. At the lake, kids were already sitting on the circle of tree stumps. Let's sit together, Dink said. They found 3 open stumps and sat. Luke and Angie were crouched by the ring of rocks, lighting a fire under the wood. Minutes later, a nice little blaze was going. Dink took a deep whiff of the burning wood. It smelled great. The sun was behind the trees and long shadows snaked along the beach. A few early fireflies were blinking among the tree branches. Okay, let's hear the bear cabin cheer, Angie said. Then we'll make s'mores. Everyone cheered as the 8 boys from Bear Cabin stood up and formed a circle. They threw their arms around each other's shoulders and put their heads together like football players in a huddle. They began to chant, We're the bears. Who cares about bears? We do, we do, we do. Bear cabin, bear cabin, bear cabin. All the rest of the kids cheered, stomping their feet in the sand. I know that was more than 15 words, one of the bear boys said, but the girls didn't use any words, so we borrowed a few of theirs. Great job, guys, Buzzy said. He and Luke passed out graham crackers, marshmallows, and flat chocolate bars. Angie gave each kid a stick with a pointy end. In case you've never made a s'more before, listen up, Angie said. First, break a cracker in 2 pieces and put a hunk of chocolate on one half. Then roast your marshmallow. When it's golden and a little mushy on the stick, plop it on the chocolate and slap the other half of the cracker on top. It's delicious. The kids took turns roasting their marshmallows. Pretty soon everyone had sticky lips and fingers. Instead of sitting on their stumps, a lot of the campers were lying in the sand, gazing into the fire. The sky had grown dark, and the stars were bright over their heads. While you kids are digesting your s'mores, we'll tell you about the marvelous mystery map, Angie said. You'll be meeting Detective Rob at breakfast tomorrow. He drew a map that leads to a special treasure. Then he ripped the map into 26 pieces. Luke, Buzzy, and I hid them all over the camp. Each of you has to find 1 piece. How do we do that? Asked Josh. Alphabet clues, Luke said. Buzzy, Angie, and I wrote the letters of the alphabet on 26 cards. Each of the map pieces will be found in a place that begins with a certain letter. To help you out, we put a clue on the back of each card. You'll each pick a card out of a hat tomorrow. I don't get it, Camp Bell said. Okay, here's an example, said Buzzy. Suppose your card has the letter W on the front and a piece of bark taped to the back. Where would you go to look? I'd go to the wood pile, said Ruth Rose. And you'd be right, Buzzy said. Cool, Camp Bell said. It's a treasure hunt. You'll work in teams, Angie went on. There are 26 of you, and you should form into teams of 3 or 4 kids. Remember, your goal is to find all 26 pieces of the map and put them back together. The treasure's location will be on the map. When do we start? Asked one of the girls. It's on your daily schedule, Angie said. At 9:30, right after your morning chores. Come up to the picnic tables to get your clue cards. Suddenly, Luke jumped on his stump with a banjo in his hands. Who knows the washerwoman song? He yelled. No one answered. Well, we do, said Luke. Come on, Angie and Buzzy, let's teach it to them. While Luke plucked the banjo strings, all three sang, Way down south in a wild, wet place, there's a wishy-washy washerwoman washing her face. Here's how the washerwoman washes her face. She waves her arms all over the place. She wiggles her rear and pulls her ear. She shakes her toes and scratches her nose. And that's how the washerwoman washes her face. Now everyone stand up and try it, Luke said. You have to make all the motions. Anyone who laughs has to sit down, and the last person standing is the winner. Luke started them off with his banjo. Now sing, Way down south in a wild, wet place. All 26 kids started singing. Within 5 seconds, they were all laughing and falling in the sand. I guess it's a tie, Luke said, grinning. Tomorrow night, one of you can choose a song. Now let's put the fire out and head back. Not so fast, Buzzy said with a big grin on his face. Angie, tell the kids about the Shady Lake Monster. Oh, they don't want to hear about the Shady Lake Monster, Angie said, smiling at Buzzy. Yes, we do, 26 kids screamed. Oh, all right, Angie said. It was very dark now and cooler. The kids leaned closer to the fire. They got quiet as Angie began speaking. Long, long ago, a forest ranger was camping near this very lake in July. The next morning, other rangers found just his hat. The man was never seen again. The following year, again in July, another person disappeared from the banks of a shady lake. Angie pointed out at the dark water. This went on, year in, year out. Every July, a person walking near this lake would disappear, never to be heard from again. Sometimes adults disappeared. Sometimes it was children. 2 years ago, a whole bunch of kids disappeared while camping here. Josh moaned and someone else giggled in the dark. Anyway, Angie continued, no one disappeared last July, so some people think the monster is gone. Of course, I have my own theory. Angie leaned closer and whispered, I think the monster is at the bottom of Shady Lake, hibernating. And while he's down there hibernating, he's getting very, very hungry. So keep your eyes open, especially when the sun goes down, just like now. Suddenly everyone heard a huge splash in the lake. It's the monster, Angie yelled. The kids all screamed and jumped up. They tripped over their stumps, bumped into each other, and fell in the sand. Run for the cabins, Buzzy yelled, barely able to keep from laughing. The kids shrieked and tore away from the campfire. Dink and Josh burst into their cabin and jumped into their bunks. They were followed by the 6 other boys, laughing and growling like monsters. That was so cool, Camp Bell said. But my Uncle Mickey told me that same story about the camp he went to. He said he heard it from his camp counselors when he was a kid. Buzzy, Angie, and Luke are having a good laugh down there now. But what made that splash? Josh asked. One of the counselors probably slipped away from the campfire in the dark, Camp Bell said. When Angie said now, Luke or Buzzy must have thrown a rock in the lake. As soon as Dink's heartbeat had quieted down, he grabbed his toothbrush and headed for the wash house. When he returned to his bunk, Josh was at his cubby, pushing things aside to find his own toothbrush. Dink kicked off his sneakers and flopped down on his bed. He picked up his Vermont book and began reading about white-tailed deer. Dink heard a scratching sound outside his window. When he turned, he saw Ruth Rose peering in through the screen. "What are you doing out there?" Dink asked. "I found it," Ruth Rose said. "Meet me around front under that big tree." "You found what?" Dink asked. Ruth Rose put her hand near the screen. With the light spilling outside, Dink saw it clearly. Resting in the palm of Ruth Rose's hand was a woman's ring.